pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mayor Hopkins,
Present. Present.
President Monroe,
Present.
and President Monroe is via telephone tonight. Vice President Francis,
Present.
Councilor Johnson,
Present.
Councilor Cade,
I'm here.
Councilor McKee,
Present.
Councilor Jones-Waters,
Present.
Councilor Roadcloud,
Present.
Solicitor Gibbs. Is the tax collector, Ms. James, out there? And then our finance director, Hafiz Nichols, is here, and that completes the roll call. Oh, I'm sorry, and NDI, Russell Cipolla from NDI.
Present.
Thank you.
Do we have any citizens report?
You have it, sir. Okay. Citizens report.
Mayor, will you read the report, please?
Thank you. I have a couple of things to report. First thing is the Mayor's Commission is Census Task Force to help in the census and borough officials to educate our residents on the importance of the census as well as to provide general information. We held a meeting recently, and we'll have another meeting on Monday. The census starts in earnest on April 1st. More information will be forthcoming, and we will have a few advertised town hall meetings. First of which will be town hall will be the night of the Mayor's Quarterly Forum on Thursday, March 5th. The forum starts at 7, but we're going to have a town hall meeting at 5 o'clock with representatives from Mary Gay, Congresswoman Mary Gay Scanlon's office, and some census officials. If you've noticed, we have some posters in the municipal building. Will be also in the library and in the business districts. As I said, the next Mayor's Citizens Forum will be Thursday, March 5th, and that's going to be a pretty big one, significant one. We'll be doing a couple of different things. Rodney Irby is retiring, has retired as of December 31st, and we're going to honor him and give him a great send-off in a ceremony. Joan Williams, who worked for the mayor's on the mayor's staff, has retired. She'll be also honored. And we have several part-time police officers to swear in, so we'll have several new part-time officers. And there's my report.
Thank you, Mayor. President's report. Toy.
So tonight, requested statement prepared. I wanted everyone to be able to hear it. So I'm going to ask that the solicitor
This title, it starts with "We Got It Wrong." Recently, not surprised by an unexpected bill, and this trust fund is the first step. I am directing that the management, staff, and solicitor recommend changes to our ordinance and process by which we convey information related to the maintenance and removal of trees. That concludes the report.
Thank you, Mr. Gibbs. Manager's report.
Good evening.
Good evening.
The items handled in this past month were that management collected the remaining $2,750 for the calendar, bringing the total amount received to $8,250. Management had the monthly meeting with the engineer on January 17th as well as on February 7th. The current and pending projects were discussed. A follow-up meeting will be held with the department heads on February 21st. NDI will provide more information during their report. Management met with the solicitor on 2/7 to discuss pending legal matters and other legal issues. Milestone certificates were given out to the employees. 3 employees reached 1-year anniversaries, and 1 is about to reach 20 years as of Saturday. He will receive his plaque in December and will be advised of such. Items in progress. The spring newsletter is currently being edited and will be mailed out in March. The 3rd floor hallway is in the process of being painted, as you probably noticed on your way in. Items to be addressed. Yeadon, in conjunction with Lansdowne, East Lansdowne, Yeadon, and Upper Darby are participating in a multi-municipal application for a Transportation and Community Development Initiative grant application. This grant, if awarded, will result in maps and grids for early stage planning, site selection, etc., to identify optimal candidate roadways that are suitable for bicycle facilities, such as sharrows, dedicated lanes, signage, those things of that nature. This will aid the municipalities in choosing bike facility projects for construction when the opportunity arises for paving or PennDOT paving, sewer utility restoration, etc. Lansdowne is coordinating the application and is the lead on this. Yeadon's commitment is to share the cash or in-kind match, which should be approximately $6,250 to $8,000. A copy of the resolution needed to proceed with this initiative was included in tonight's packet. Management recommends that council approve this resolution. There was a report of a sewer issue on Duncan Avenue. Public Works contacted NDI, who reached out to A. Garjoul with management's approval to remedy this emergent matter and prevent a sanitary sewer overflow. The laterals at the main were found to be broken and in need of replacing. This is likely to cost over $100,000. NDI will discuss this further during their report. The approved remedies to 728 Yeadon Avenue have been completed. NDI contacted Ernell to make the site safe and protect it from weather. NDI recommended to management that the borough should wait and see if the property sells at judicial sale in May. NDI further recommended that if the property does not sell at judicial sale, then the borough should apply for a grant to demolish the property. Management agrees. NDI will discuss further in their report. Please be looking on the website, Twitter, Facebook, and the cable channel for updates from the borough. For example, we are accepting applications for various positions. In addition, the Census Task Force is scheduling informational meetings and job fairs for the community. There are 2 resolutions in tonight's packet, actually 3 including the bike resolution, but the other 2 relate to the census, which outlines Yeadon's working as a partner with the U.S. Census Bureau to obtain an accurate count and establishing a committee to aid in this effort. And that completes my report.
Chair, may I ask a question?
My question has to do with the 728 Yeadon Avenue. You mentioned that NDI suggested if the property was not sold at the judicial sale in May, then we should apply for a grant to have it demolished. So I'm just kind of confused. Is there some sort of structural issues related to that property?
So yes, currently the property, I believe there's a tarp on the front of it, so it's not aesthetically pleasing at this time, and there was a lot of damage to the inside. The garage was taken out at the back. So essentially, if somebody doesn't purchase the property to bring it up to code and bring it up to the status of looking the way that you would expect houses to look in your community, it is definitely a candidate for the demolition, and it would be best to proceed with obtaining a grant to do that.
So why are we waiting, this is February, March, April, almost 3 months before applying for the grant? Because if you wait until May to find out whether or not the home will be sold, and then you find out in May that it's not going to be sold, then you apply for the grant, you have to wait for the grant to be approved, if it is going to be approved, and that's going to be more time. So why not do this simultaneously together? Apply for the grant now.
Well, council could choose to decide to do something different earlier on. However, if somebody were to purchase that property, then there would be no need to demolish it, and there would still be a nice home within the area that's being lived in.
But applying for the grant, you won't receive any knowledge as to whether or not the grant is going to be accepted or not accepted, probably for a couple of months anyway.
Correct.
how fast will they process the application?
So the grant that we will be applying for is the Delaware County Demolition Grant. They award those at every Delaware County Council meeting. They are aware of the situation. One of the issues is that the property's not owned by the borough. After that, you know, it's 3 levels of sales. It's a sheriff sale, a judicial sale, a repository sale. And correct me, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I know we can't do anything until it gets to a certain point. The borough can step in, condemn, and once it gets on a certain list, I believe it's the repository list, and that's when we can take action. That's why NDI is recommending that we wait until the sale can met. At that point, the application will be submitted, and again, county council or the county is already aware of it. So I anticipate us submitting the application immediately and receiving the funding shortly thereafter.
And if I can just jump in, Madam Councilor, if we spend additional money, the judicial sale will erase any liens the borough has against that property, which is something that I have some concerns about, because we could spend more money trying to get it up to code and make it safe. And if we do that, any money we spend will be lost.
Okay, all right. So the issue is we don't really have control over the building.
No, we do not. It's owned by
Right,
someone
so that's
else.
the issue. Okay, that part was missing. That's why I didn't understand. Why don't we just apply simultaneously?
Makes sense.
Okay, great.
So we need to
Thank you.
extinguish the ownership. If we don't extinguish the ownership, we would go through the process of demolishing the property.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
And we would not want to take adverse possession or take ownership, because if something happens to someone there, we don't own it right now. But
Right.
it has been made safe as it can be currently.
Okay. Thank you.
My turn?
Solicitor's report.
So as it relates to the shade trees, one of the things that I can't find is shade trees have rules and regulations that the borough has never enacted. I kind of want to work with Councilor Johnson of your committee to try to work on these regulations. We don't necessarily need to amend the ordinance, but we can enact regulations that we've never enacted, so that everyone can have a clear understanding. I also understand that there may have been at some point an ordinance enacted subsequent to the one in 1995. The borough doesn't possess that ordinance. We went through a really exhaustive process last year trying to find an ordinance from 2008, but the only one we have is the one from 1995.
I think the latest one was 03, and the latest one was 03. And it was Paul Jensen who actually probably copied and pasted in 08.
So, okay. What we have coded in our borough ordinances, our codified ordinances under chapter 280, is an ordinance that was adopted in 1995 by council on December the 7th.
And all others have been copied and pasted since then. But we'll get together.
But we need to find, if there's another ordinance that exists that replaced this ordinance, and if someone has it, we need to update it. I checked with the library in Delaware County, the law library, and the latest one they have is 1995. So one of the things I do, when you pass an ordinance that I draft, I send it to the library so it stays on file there. There's nothing addressing the shade trees out there.
And even if we can't, excuse me, even if we can't find that, can we just?
We can do an
come up with
ordinance.
a new-
But I think one of the things that we also have to do quickly is open up this trust fund, because for 30-some years, I don't do math well, since 1995, we haven't been contributing money to it.
Can we prepare, I'm sorry,
No, go ahead.
can we prepare an ordinance for next week? Is that too early?
We don't need an ordinance. The authority for the trust fund exists under section 280-06. It states that $5 per year from the refuge fee shall be called the Shade Tree Trust Fund.
So my question would be, according to section 280-6, the Shade Tree Trust Fund, a surcharge of $5 per year. So people were paying that surcharge.
That's a very interesting question. I have not found any ordinance or tax resolution, and I went back probably 15, 20 years, as far back as I can go, where someone had an extra increase because of it. So when you look at the refuge fee goes up, but I couldn't find something that says that the $5 was attached to it. So I think they were taking money out the refuge fee and supposed to put it in this trust fund, not that people were charged extra money. And that's just using the records that I have. I could be wrong, and at some point someone did it, but there is no account. And when Mr. Nichols took over, he found a number of accounts that no one knew about. Maybe one of them may have been a Shade Tree Trust Fund. I just have no way of knowing.
I'll direct this question to you, Mr. Nichols. Is there any way we can find out if the taxpayers were actually charged an additional $5
We
for their refuge?
We most certainly can go back to all of the tax ordinances that council passed, like the solicitor said, to see if it was a distinction between what the refuge fee was and if there was an increase by the $5. We can do that,
Yes.
most certainly.
Yes.
So, and I can harken back to the December 7th, 1995 ordinance was a few weeks before the tax assessment ordinance. There was nothing saying an additional $5. In fact, the refuge fee was the same as it was December 94.
So what we can assume is that there may have been a surplus at some point, and they were just saying that we're going to take $5 from this fee and move it over there. We've had some conversations internally. Last year, the refuge fund actually has an additional $300 and some odd thousand in it. You know, so theoretically, if we wanted to start now to do so, we could fund the fee, the Shade Tree Fund. We most certainly can do that because there was a surplus in that particular account last year.
Okay.
Very good.
Yeah, I think that would be beneficial.
Very
And that
good.
would probably be the right thing to do at this point.
And if the borough owed itself a debt, it's something that we could address administratively.
Yeah. Yes.
The last part of my report is that we are very close in our brief council and executive session. We had a piece of litigation involving a dispute that we had with a contractor, and we are an email away from it being resolved and the work commencing on Redwood Road. Redwood Avenue.
One more thing about that Shade Tree debacle.
Try to move on quickly.
I think what needs to happen, I think we should have a meeting
Yeah,
to discuss
yeah.
these codes here relating to the Shade Tree, because there are some concerns that I have,
Okay.
okay? And we need to be clear and all on the same page.
Okay.
Stephen,
Okay.
when's your next code meeting?
The next code
It will be
meeting.
the first Tuesday in next month. But that,
Will it be on that agenda?
it can be placed on that agenda.
If you invite me, I'll come to the code meeting.
You're always
I'll come to
invited.
that.
There's a standing invitation.
Get Sergeant Burns to come with me. Any other questions for me? Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Gibbs. Tax collector's report?
I have no report tonight.
Thank you. Engineer's report.
Good evening, everyone. We have no request for motions at tonight's meeting. However, I'd be glad to answer any questions that council or anyone has regarding the current projects and including the projects that Ms. Presley brought up.
Good evening. I do
Good evening.
have one question.
Sure.
My question has to do with the stucco work. Okay. I'm just curious, has any telephone proposals come in?
We are not aware of any proposals that have come in yet.
Okay. Yeah, because looking at the notes, it said something about, you will also be soliciting telephone proposals.
We have been trying to do that. We've been calling people and doing the best we can to get solicitations from various contractors. The weather's held up some people, and in fact, to that effect, we've asked for an extension for bids, quotes to be due on February 20th to give contractors more time to, go out and look at the site for the weather and try to get more contractors to bid on the project.
Okay.
Doing the best we can.
Well, that's okay.
Yeah.
All right.
How many contractors do you expect to show up?
Well, we have no idea how many are going to show up. We sent them out to probably 5 or 6 contractors. but nobody's giving us any indication as to whether they would definitely put a price in.
But you did say phone calls were made.
Yes,
Okay.
emails, phone calls, combination.
No responses?
Well, there's responses, but nobody's telling us that they're definitely going to bid on the project. We have no way of knowing that until
Of course.
the day that's due.
Thank you.
Are you welcome, Council? Anything else I could add? Okay,
Thank you, sir.
thank you, everyone. Good night.
Good night.
Now we'll go into our committee reports, finance report.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
We had our first Finance Committee report meeting for 2020. We had it on February 6th. Thanks for everybody who attended. We switched to an evening format. In previous years, we had them during the day, and they are open to the public. The public that did attend, we got some really positive feedback. I'll just give you a takeaway. My takeaway from the Finance Committee meeting is, one, I think we raised more questions than answers. I think, and it's probably abundantly clear that we're behind the 8 ball, I believe, in addressing revenues, additional revenues in the borough. Commercial parcels, residential parcels, how we address growth going forward is going to be top of our agenda very aggressively this year. We're looking to work with DCED in a little bit more detail. We had a really nice workshop in Brookhaven on that same morning. Councilwoman Roadcloud, our borough manager Presswood, and Dr. McCabe, Councilwoman McCabe was there. A lot of really good information, and I hope that over the next couple weeks, months, we're able to really dig deep into how we focus on our revenues going forward. It's very important for our taxpayers that we address those initiatives. There's a YEDC meeting that I'll be attending this upcoming Monday. And my hope is that we can work in concert with them a lot this year, and especially going into 2021's budget season. And that concludes my report.
Tell me what time are we seeing it's changed from when?
Yeah, so the standing meetings, I believe we should do those quarterly. The standing meetings now, there will be separate one-off meetings to discuss a lot of the initiatives that we talked about, but in more detail. So when we get to the quarterly standing meeting, we have some progress and updates. So I feel as though this committee should be very fluid. I don't feel as though, and this has always been my point of view, if there are any questions, ideas that anybody in the community has about addressing revenues or how we work with our expenditures, definitely our contact information is very public. You know, email us, talk to us. But the actual time of the meeting is 7 o'clock. And the next one, I believe it will be, and we'll talk about it coming up, I believe it will be the first quarter in May. The standing meeting. Yep. 7 o'clock. And I bring food.
Do you think it would be wise or conducive to maybe have maybe a town meeting for the residents to ask for some input into what they would like to see?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's a great idea. I also do know the YEDC is looking to have, in between now and the May meeting, a public-facing forum to discuss a lot of those things. But yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Maybe that's something we can work on. Okay, thank you.
That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Davis.
Thank you.
Ordinance and zoning. Councilwoman Rookville.
Good evening. Well, my code committee met on February 4th, 2020, and unfortunately, it was not a good meeting. The representatives from the department
did not have any knowledge with respect to anything that we asked for status on. So it was kind of disappointing. So moving forward, my expectation is that a representative from the management team attend these code meetings, in addition to having Director Stokes attend the code committee meetings. If Director Stokes is unavailable for whatever reason, someone be sent in his place who has knowledge with respect to the processes and procedures of the code department. As you all are aware, we are suffering quite a bit in that department, and we're working diligently to try to remedy any problems to make it more efficient so that we will eventually be 100% happy with the quality of life in Yeadon. So that is my short report, and I would call Director Stokes to the podium if you have additional information.
Good evening, council and residents. The code report for January 2020. There was no zoning hearings in January of 2020. We had 2 zoning use applications. One was for 1243 Angora Avenue, 1243 Angora Avenue for a deck, it was approved. 625 Furnace Street for a child daycare was denied. There was no zoning hearing applications for January. We have a few hot spots that we are still working with. 658 Ruskin Road, we're checking for debris on the property for violations. The Roxborough Bank at 1024 Church Lane, we had issues with parking lot sales of cars. Inspector Robinson is handling that on a daily basis. 1100 Chester Avenue, there was some issues in reference to the exterior of the property. Inspector Robinson is handling those. We have a couple of, we have one vacant property at 405 Walnut Street. It has numerous violations. There are numerous citations that are in court at this time. We have a property on Park Place, 192 Park Place. He has debris and a TV on the exterior. We also have him in court with several citations in reference to that. We're just waiting for a hearing. Action items, Washington Woods Apartments on Bullock Avenue. We had an issue with trash on the exterior. That has been taken care of. They actually have a new property manager who actually lives on the complex, and we're talking with him on a daily basis to make sure everything is taken care of. 915 Allen Drive, we still have the boat issue. The owner actually contacted a company called Donate a Boat to have it removed. I actually spoke with them this week. There was no one interested in taking the boat. I will be talking to the police chief. I think he just came back from being away. We were working together to get that situation addressed. We are diligently taking care of all the civic app reports that come in reference to code issues. It was already discussed in reference to the shade tree invoices by council. We have a couple of closed items. 101 Chester Avenue in the exterior of the CVS, it was a lot of debris and trash. Inspector Solomon White has been taking care of that. Also at 901 Cedar Avenue in the Dollar General, he has been taking care of that also. Upcoming items, I'm sorry. There was a zoning hearing that occurred Tuesday of this week to convert 1058 Sherrill Avenue into a multifamily dwelling. That hearing was again Tuesday. That was denied. Rental applications have been sent out for the rental properties. Our health applications have been sent out for all the properties. And our fire inspection applications went out for all the businesses. Inspector White took a building code official class, which was yesterday and the day before. He actually went to the class, and he will be presenting me with some more information on what he learned in reference to it, so we can pass it on to all the other inspectors. On Tuesday, February 18th, the Delaware County Lead Poisoning Prevention Coalition will be having their monthly meeting here at 12 o'clock in the borough on the second floor, and they will be having a news conference also in reference to the lead poisoning ordinances that they are working on. The 2020 January property maintenance abatement, we received $170. For our January code department revenue, the total was $41,827.50. On the code workload for January, 72 violations were written. We had 8 resale inspections, 34 rental inspections, 15 citations. We had 4 court cases. We had 31 requests for action complaints that we were handling. We had 1 fire investigation, 1 fire inspection. We had 30 vehicle violation notices that were issued. We had 10 contractors registered. We had 21 building permits, 5 electrical permits, 4 plumbing permits, 5 mechanical permits, 2 dumpster permits, 2 zoning use permits, applications, and that concludes the report of the code department. Any questions?
Yes, sir. Good evening.
Good evening.
I just wanted to bring to your attention, just in case you didn't know, there are several junk sign removal signs situated to several utility poles throughout the borough. One is on Chester and McDade, right off of McDade, and there's another one on the gateway of Whitby Avenue. They've been there for several weeks now. And I do have a question. The code department, is the code department employees allowed to take home their borough-issued devices that they use to perform their jobs?
The iPads?
Yes.
I directed them to take it with them, so if any civic apps come in, they can get them on their phone, like I get on my phone every night. And if you know, when you send some stuff out, when other people send out, I answer you right away if I'm available, so they do take them home with them.
Oh, well, they're not working 24 hours, are they?
No, not really, but if something come in and it's assigned to them, they can answer the question. I'm not on 24-hour,
hours, right? But if they're
but
doing
on
work
call.
off hours, then that's a whole nother issue. That maybe.
It's probably something more appropriate to discuss in executive session.
But the issue is basically being allowed to take home the borough-issued apparatus as the iPads. So they are allowed to.
Well, yes, because they take the phones home just in case they need to call them for an emergency after hours.
Okay. Thank you.
I did have a question. Sir, how you doing, Mr. Stokes?
Hello.
What, just in general, not regarding 625 Furniture Street specifically, but what will cause a child care to be denied?
Under the zoning, certain areas in the borough, you can have a daycare, certain ones can't. So under the zoning, if it's not allowed in that zoning area, they get a denial letter, and they are then told if they would like to appeal it, then they can appeal it to the zoning hearing board.
So I guess back specifically 625, that was a home base.
Yes, that was a home-based daycare.
Okay, so what would cause a home-based daycare to be denied?
The zoning code, what is the classification? There is a prohibition
Yes.
to certain types of businesses inside of your home, and daycare is not a permitted use.
Okay, so there are absolutely home daycares in Yeadon.
There's home daycares, but not in the borough of Yeadon, that we are aware of legally.
Okay.
That we are aware of legally.
Okay.
There may be some in the borough that are not legally.
Okay. All right. I think that answers my next 12 questions.
There are a lot of businesses in town. There are a lot of home business. I'm not gonna say there are a lot of. There could be instances where there are home businesses that are being done that we are not aware of, that people are having.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Silver.
Excuse me, President, I have another meeting somewhere else. Is it okay to leave?
Yes. Satisfied everybody's questions? Thank you.
All right.
You don't have anything for emergency?
I'm sorry, I do have a report for emergency management. I'm sorry. Can I, Vice President, can I read the emergency management report before I go? Okay, I'm sorry. Yeadon Borough Emergency Management Report for January. We are still asking residents to join the Borough Emergency Management Team to assist in the event of emergency. All the departments in the borough are ready in case of emergency. Our winter preparedness have been performed, and so far, because of the weather, we haven't needed to do anything at all. We are also in contact with the County Emergency Management Agency just in case there is an emergency that we can pick up the phone and get assistance immediately. We are scheduling a date to test the emergency generator for the building to make sure that everything is working properly. And that we submit the report for emergency management.
Okay, when do we get the emergency generator for the building?
Well, the generator's been here for a while. We're just going to test it and make sure everything is working properly that was set up years ago.
Because we had a problem 2 years ago when we had shutdown and nothing
Yes,
worked.
and that's why.
And we made preparations to get a real emergency. So I thought that was it.
Well, no, the one that's there now has been here for, I would say, maybe 10 years or more. And I know Chief Papar was working on trying to get a bigger one that's going to operate the entire building, but not just certain parts on certain floors. But with the one that's outside now, we are going to test it to make sure that what was set up as emergency power in the building is going to work properly if we ever have the incident that you guys had a couple of years ago when the tree knocked the power out to this area and it wasn't working.
Okay, so that should be it.
Yes, they should be, but again, we're working to have a test on their system. We just have to notify all the departments before we test it.
All right, thank you.
Okay? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, may I join Mr. Stills' meetings? Yes.
I'm sorry. Real quick, man, I'm going to request an executive meeting to discuss personnel issues.
Your mic is not on.
Speaking.
I would like to request an executive meeting next week prior to legislative meeting to discuss personnel issues.
Okay. I mean, excuse me. Yes.
Public Works, Councilwoman
Good evening, everyone. The committee met on February 4th, Borough Hall, second floor. The Highway Department is out filling potholes as they see them. If any residents see a pothole, please call 610-623-3636 and report it to the Highway Department. Tree trimming along Long Acre Boulevard from the Circle to Church Lane has been completed, as well as the trees in Community Park in the area of outdoor cooking and eating along the walkway. Dan is in the process of updating a list of street inlets for repairs. The 2020 shade tree list is completed. For council's consideration, advertising for seasonal workers, replacing carpet with waterproof flooring in the police foyer, second floor hall, and the second floor kitchen. There's some major projects that needs to be replaced here in 2020. Mulch needs to be bought and placed in both of the top lots in Community Park. There are some borough-owned lots that needs concrete work and brickwork done as well. Outside of the old swim club, on McDade Boulevard, it needs repaving. Our next committee meeting meets March the 3rd, second floor, 6 p.m. All are welcome. That completes my report.
Thank you. Public safety?
Public Safety Committee met on Saturday, January 25th. The next meeting will be February, 2 weeks, Saturday, February 28th. We just heard from Emergency Management Director. We'll hear from, in Chief Paparo's absence, Sergeant Burns will highlight his report, followed by our Fire Chief, Ed Haggard. Sergeant Burns.
Good evening. Chief just wanted me to touch on some highlights. The department's been utilizing a bait car to deter and to catch. We've had a lot of vehicle thefts and vehicle break-ins recently. The use of the bait car resulted in 5 arrests in just 3 days of using it, so it is working. Chief is accepting applications for the Police Academy, for Citizens Police Academy for March 2020. In recent weeks, we've seized 8 firearms, illegal firearms. 2 of them were held by juvenile offenders that we caught breaking into vehicles at night. So our officers are out there at night watching for these break-ins. We usually get an uptick of them, and then we really hit it hard. We find out who's doing it, and then it quiets down. We're in one of those quiet lulls right now. Not good. As far as training goes, we've had myself and another officer just complete a FBI hostage negotiator school. We've had some officers go to search and seizure laws and procedures school, crime scene investigation instruction school, and there's 2 separate days that we have a handful of officers going each day to a de-escalation tactic school. It's a tactical communication school for de-escalations. And they were pretty much the points that he wanted me to touch on.
Could that big car be considered entrapment?
No, it cannot. It's put out just like any other car would be put out, and it just has officers watching.
Well, I mean, it sets up a crime. So, and then the person comes and does the crime, but still, isn't it kind of causing the person to be unfairly judged?
In my experience, the court doesn't look at it that way. It's a vehicle that's just put out there that we specifically watch. We sit and watch that vehicle.
Okay.
It doesn't. There's nothing done to entice somebody to break into that car or to steal that car. It's just sitting on the block with all the other cars. It's just a vehicle that we're specifically watching. That's pretty much all it's used.
Thank you. Do any of our vehicles, are any of them equipped with scanners?
For the license plate readers? Not yet. We're working on a grant to see if we can obtain them.
Okay.
They're very costly, so.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Sergeant Burns?
That's it. Thank you.
Then we'll hear from Fire Chief Daniel Haggard.
Good evening. Fire department, in the month of January, answered 75 fire calls, with a total of 451 members responding, averaging 6 an incident. Breakdown, as in towns that we go to, we assisted Clifton Heights twice, Darby 17 times, they assisted us 17 times, East Lansdowne assisted us 4, Lansdowne 11, Collindale twice, Holmes Fire Company once. We assisted Darby Borough 31 times, East Lansdowne twice, Lansdowne 9, Rocky Run which is outside the media 5 times. Breakdown of fire calls we had 19 fire alarms, 11 buildings, 6 EMS assists, 14 accidents, 2 accidents with entrapment, 1 elevator rescue, 5 CO alarms, 2 wire calls, assist the police department once, investigations 8, landing zones twice, vehicle fires once, cover assignments 3. We also answered, our EMS answered 181 EMS calls. Some of the projects the fire company has going on right now for the year 2020, we just received word that we received 2 grants. One is to update equipment in our firehouse, and another one to have AEDs put on our vehicles. And we're waiting on the answer. We just submitted a grant for close to $300,000 for supplies with new air packs. That's the federal grant. We'll probably know that by sometime in December. The next project the fire company is working on is we started a cancer clean fire department. As one of our biggest killers outside of suicide is the cancer that we get from wearing our dirty gear. Our gear is very expensive. We try to keep the gear as clean as possible. We installed a washing machine, dryers to stay up to the NFPA standard. We are starting to fall behind on our gear, which costs approximately $4,050 per person. And we like to buy 10 sets, and we're kind of asking the borough if they could see if they could buy 5 sets for us, split that 10 sets in half. And that's all the actions that we have. Our funding, just like in taxes, we're solely donations, and our donations have dropped. And in the last 5-6 years, they dropped 5 to 10% a year. And the citizens, or the ones that are donating, know we're volunteer. The ones that don't donate, I think they think we're funded by taxes. Our tax funding is very little. And you know, we're trying to upgrade our equipment, keep our people trained. It's very expensive to run our volunteer fire company. And that's all I have for the evening. I'd like to be excused, I have another meeting.
Thank you, Mr.
Also, any questions?
I do have questions. I'll pick up 3 for you. You said you received 2 grants already?
Yes, the grants are from the state of Pennsylvania, the fire commissioner grants. One grant is a fire grant. We're upgrading to go along with our clean gear. It's helped our gear to stay dry. There are more airy racks that we keep our gear on. That grant, we're just waiting for the money to come in. The other grant is also through the fire commissioner's office. It's an EMS grant, and that's for, we put in for to replace and upgrade all our AEDs on our fire apparatus. And again, that's been awarded, and all we're doing is waiting for the money. Hopefully to have that in the next month. And those 2 projects will be done.
Okay. And you mentioned that you submitted a grant for up to $300,000 for air packs?
For our SCBAs, our air bottles that we wear on our back so we can go inside fires.
Okay. And so the gear that you're requesting that the borough assist you in purchasing, the $4,050 per person here, I'm assuming there were no monies left over from the grants that you already received, or you cannot use any of those monies for?
The grants that we're receiving from the fire commissioner's office, we have to put in grants ahead of time. So this is what the fire department voted on. We've just replaced, in the last 2 years, the fire company has replaced 15 sets of gear. Our latest one we just replaced in believe we received the gear in December of 10 sets. And at the end of last year, 2018, we replaced 5 sets. This is what the fire department researched. Seems to be the best gear out there. Protect us from the fire, our health, as in the cancer, keep us clean. We're taking steps. We have stuff on the apparatus when we come out of a fire. First thing we do, we actually wash our hands and face before we do anything else. That's where they're finding that we're receiving the cancer. I've been in service 45 years. I'm clean. Friends of mine are going through the battle right now. And it's not a good battle. They're getting throat cancer, skin cancer in the neck. That's where all this carcinogens come into us. And we're trying to stay a step ahead of that with our young members, you know, getting into them, clean yourself, keep your gear clean. We had 2 bad fires today, and my gear is out there drying right now. And this is what we have to do.
Oh, I understand it, and I certainly appreciate your service. But I think my question is basically, is there any monies left over from the grants you already received that could go towards the $4,050 gear?
Well, what we have left over, the fire company's buying 5 sets.
Oh, okay.
The
So
fire
you
company's
have-
already buying 5 sets.
Okay.
We would like to make it 10.
Right, so you
So-
only have enough money for 5?
We only have enough money to buy 5 right now.
You're asking the borough to donate 5, right?
Right,
Okay.
correct.
All right.
Look, before you look at, I'm sorry, you finished?
No, that was it.
Okay.
Before you leave, Chief, just a couple of things on the score with the residents, and to piggyback what you started out saying. A lot of residents believe that, you know, this is totally funded by the borough, but all the fire departments locally are volunteers, and a lot of it, like you said, the funding depends upon grants, donations. I know here, bingo is a big thing, it's a big money maker over the years here at the borough. Unfortunately, and I know this because the church's volunteerism has plummeted. People don't volunteer anymore, and donations has plummeted. People don't give like they used to anymore. As a result, so that you know, Melbourne Fire Department totally shut down. There's a lack of funding. Isn't it Collindale?
We just had Collindale Fire Company, they had 2 fire departments, they merged into one, and that was due to funding. We get some of our funding, we get another funding which is about $40,000 to $50,000 a year. It's from the insurance companies. When you pay your insurance, there's actually a tax your insurance company pays to the state of Pennsylvania, and the state, it's called a relief association. And that money goes to there. The state splits that up to every fire department in the state, and everybody gets a nice little. We're fortunate we get between $40,000 and $50,000, and what we use that money for is life insurance policies for our active members, safety equipment, our fire gloves. We buy fire gloves. Matter of fact, our last 10 sets was bought through that money, but that's again in the last 5-6 years. That money has gone from I think it was $70,000 10 years ago, down to, I think last year was $48,000 or maybe $50,000. So our funding's going down, but the cost of everything is going up. In the last 3 years, the cost of gear, 4 years ago when we bought a set of gear, it was $2,000. We're up over $4,000 right now.
So it's a challenge. It's becoming more and more of a challenge to fund a fire department from volunteers for a while. A lot of fire departments are hurting with just a lot of people are not doing that anymore.
Right, we're a little fortunate, and I don't know why. We just have 5 new members come in last month, and I think we're voting. where you have 3 or 4 new applicants this month. Fire problem, they don't last very long. They realize that, well, they don't get paid. And it's a lot of training. A young firefighter coming in with no training at all, the first class he has to take is 180 hours. It's every Tuesday and Thursday night and every other Saturday for 4 months. And they realize they can't handle that.
Is there any kind of stipend?
Do we have any type of stipend? We get a lunch here and there. Like when we're out in a bad fire, like today, we had a bad fire in Darby at 5 o'clock this morning. We assisted Darby Township at 10 o'clock this morning. When we got back, I brought the crew to lunch on the fire company.
So there's no kind of financials?
No. No. Not, because then that takes the word volunteer right out of the system. And that affects us in the long run other ways.
For those who don't know, this is our new fire chief, Mr. Haggerty. He's hit the ground running. And as far as your requests, I just spoke to Mr. Nichols. We're going to research and see where we can get some funding for you.
Okay.
You keep us safe. We want to keep you safe.
I appreciate that.
God bless you.
Okay?
Thank you for your report.
Thank you. Good evening.
Next report, I believe we already had the emergency management.
Yes.
So the next great one is recreation. Good evening, everybody.
You're sure.
Good evening. When you say good evening, you can get out of here.
Motion to adjourn.
Listen, we had a meeting January 30th at 7 o'clock. Items were discussed as our program for 2020. The following dates we have planned for events. Flag Day will be June 13th. The rain date will be June 20th, 2020. Halloween Hardin Hall will be October 26th, 27th, and 28th. The Veterans Day Luncheon will be November 7th, 2020. And the last item will be Christmas tree lighting ceremony, which will be that first Friday, December 4th, 2020. Again, we would like to thank everyone who made all our events and supported us last year. Thank you very much for making it a great event. Right now, we currently are planning for Flag Day. I believe the mayor's working on letters to go out
Work on
to
letters.
organizations. And we're going to be making telephone calls regarding that. We have no formal motions at this time. Our next meeting will be February 25th at 7 o'clock, Borough Hall, 3rd floor. So ends my report. Yes, ma'am.
Are you going to join in with the library and do Kwanzaa this year, Kwanzaa celebration?
We can discuss that. We can discuss that with the program.
When you say we, what do you mean?
Our committee. I alone can't make that decision. We'll meet and discuss that.
With the library or just your committee first?
I'll discuss it with our committee first, and you're more than welcome to attend. Okay?
Speaking of which, there's nothing from the library. I know there's a whole Black History program this month, right? If you want to, Ms. Samuels or Ms. Darlene? Come on. Just.
I'm sorry. You know, we last night we had a reenactment of Harriet Tubman. That was wonderful. Sorry people missed that. We have a tea on February 22nd, but there was registration for that. Registration for that is closed now. Next Friday, the 15th, the library is starting YPL matinee showing 21st, I'm sorry, showing movies on Friday afternoon at 12:30, and the first one on the 21st will be Harriet. Anything else? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, just a quick question, this is different. If there's corrections to be made to the minutes, do I submit those corrections now or next week?
Next week.
Yeah, next week. Next week.
Okay.
Okay. Does anybody have anything good for the borough? Want to make a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Good night.